Hi, this is David Heine, Aspect Art. Thank you for joining us. Today we're in that quaint village just north of Amsterdam, Hoorn, at the West Fries Museum, where they've mounted a show about Pushkin. Pushkin is the Russian poet who died tragically at 37 in a duel with Dantes, the adopted son of the Dutch ambassador. Pushkin was from the aristocracy. He lived a blessed and cursed life. In this exhibition, his story is more or less told through the costumes and pictures that have been presented here. The costumes were taken from a film that's just in release in England, another in America, and it may or may not come to Holland. We can only hope it might. So join us now with Tony Jarians, who's going to tell us a little about this exhibition and a little about Pushkin. So join us now for Pushkin in the West Fries Museum. Tony, we're here again in the West Fries Museum, and you've mounted another beautiful show with the costumes that depict, I believe, Pushkin's life. Could you tell us a little about what the costumes themselves come from, or where they come from?
The costumes are out of the film Onyekin. And Onyekin was one of the famous novels, romance of Pushkin. The costumes are specially made for that film, and I think they're beautiful. I'll use them in this exhibition to show a bit of the life of Pushkin in the early 19th century when he was living.
Pushkin was a famous poet in St. Petersburg. Could you tell us a little about his life?
Yeah, I can. Pushkin had a very a quite happy childhood. He was living in St. Petersburg. He enjoyed life. He could enjoy life because he belonged to the nobility of Russia, so they had money. He stayed in St. Petersburg, but also he was a very nasty writer. He was a writer of nasty poems about the situation at that time in Russia, and the Tsar didn't like it. So he exiled him to one of the southern states of Russia, the Krim, in the Caucasus. He didn't like that Pushkin, but he could travel, so that was a good part. He fell in love with one of the wives of his secondants, and then that man got so angry about it that then Pushkin was exiled again to Mikhailovskoye, and that was the place of his mother's family. And he had to stay there for about 5 years. He wrote a lot in those days. And his Nanya, that was his mate he had when he was a child, came and lived with him and told him all kinds of stories about Russia. After that, he came back to St. Petersburg, met his wife, and his wife was beautiful. And so the Tsar saw her and fell in love with her, I think. So he got Pushkin a place at his court, but in such a situation that it was down his level, down Pushkin's level, and Pushkin didn't like that at all. But he had to attend to all the balls with his wife, because the Tsar demanded it. And all his work was controlled by the Tsar. So then the hard life started. Financially, Pushkin didn't like the way he was living. He earned far less than he had to give out for his family. The sisters of his wife were living with him. His grandmother was living with him. And of course, he belonged to the nobility. He had to keep up to a certain standard. So the money he spent was far more than what was coming in. So he had a very difficult time. His wife was flirting with Dantes. George Dantes was the adoptive son of the Dutch ambassador in St. Petersburg at that time. And George Dantes was in love with Pushkin's wife. But the sister of Pushkin's wife, Katrina, was in love with Dantes. So it was a bit of an awkward situation and very difficult for Pushkin. Pushkin then would have to duel with Dantes. And one of his friends saw that it didn't go through and pushed Dantes to marry Katrina, who was pregnant. So there was a bit of a quiet time for several months. And then after that, Dantes started again with the wife of Pushkin. Pushkin's financial situation was very bad at that moment. He had to get money from everywhere. And then he wrote a very nasty letter to Van Heekeren, that was the Dutch ambassador. And then Van Heekeren said, well, I have to challenge you for duel. But I can't because I'm a diplomat. So Dantes had to do it. And they fought with the pistols. Dantes fired first and hit Pushkin very bad. Pushkin just injured Dantes very light. And 48 hours after that, Pushkin died.
A relatively young man, as I recall.
Yeah, 37 years old. He had 4 children and a wife. The Tsar did take all his debts he had and provided his wife and his 4 children to have quite a good life. So.
You've mounted an exhibition here that depicts a lot of Pushkin's life, pictures, photographs, and these beautiful costumes. How have you organized the West Fries Museum to suit Pushkin?
It was a Pushkin year in Russia. It still is. We have a man here in Hoorn who has good connections with Russia. And I'll ask him to do all the painting you see in the background. Students from the Academy of Kaliningrad came over and made this Neva embankment of St. Petersburg. And also downstairs they made the background for the jewel. We also have a room with a jewel. All the pictures you see are taken from books, because to get a loan out of Russia is for our museum, we are still not a big museum, a bit too expensive to get it here. So we had to take them out of the books. But I think we succeeded very well to give an idea how the life was of the nobility in Russia, but also of the normal people in Russia, people who earned less money in those days. The costumes, of course, are a totally different story. I think they're beautiful made. And they tell the story, of course, of the film Onegin, but put them now in this exhibition to tell the story of Alexander Pushkin.
As I recall, the Onegin, I know it from an opera, was kind of a tragic story too, wasn't it?
It is. It's very romantic, but very tragic. It's a bit the same of Pushkin's life. Pushkin did put a lot of his own life in the story, Yevgeny Onegin. And it also ends, now it doesn't end with a duel, but there's a duel in it. And it ends for the lady in the story with the question what to do, choose for her husband or choose for her lover. That's a bit of the end of Onegin.
Now, you said early in the interview that the costumes were taken from a film. Is this film released, and is it going to play here in Holland so that people can see it?
And people from Russia told me it's a big success there. Then it was released at the end of November in England, and it's also a big success there. But the costumes are going up for the nomination for the Oscars. So now the film will be released in 2 days in America. I think it's a great film. Ralph Fiennes plays the part, the big part in the film. And I think it's a bit of a shame because I'm not sure the film will be released in Holland, especially to see the costumes, of course, who are going up for the nomination.
So one of the costumes actually that was here is going, you've had to do something with it, huh?
Yes, the designer phoned me and he asked me for more costumes to go back to England to send to Hollywood. And I said, no, you only can have one. It's a beautiful costume. It's a Russian hussar uniform of a military man. And it's made with real silver. I can't show you at the moment because it's back. And he did send me back another one. So it's okay. He also would love to have back one of the red Balkans in one of the rooms downstairs. And then I said, no, you can't have that. Well, it's okay.
Now, the show that you have here, how can the people see it? When does it show, and how long will it be here?
It's still here until February 27th, so it's quite a long time. We are open every day, Monday till Friday, from 11 till 5. Saturdays and Sundays from 2 till 5. And in this month, we have still one Russian group to come to sing and play. In January we have Russian groups coming over, and also in February. Also we have made a special arrangement for people who like to come in groups. Then they get coffee and some pastries, and we talk, and I'll show them around, give them a special tour through the exhibition.
Well, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.